Happy Monday. Oh, it's so nice to see you all again in the on Zoom. I do miss you guys so much. So it's really lovely for me to open up that Zoom on a Monday and see you all there. So I suppose it's time for the one and only Ivan. So let's see what he's up to today. I lie awake peeling dried red paint off my fingertips from when I played with the paint. Bob, who accidentally walked into one of my paintings, is licking his red paws. Every so often, I glance over at the empty ring and the claw stick glints in the moonlight. Stop! No! Ruby's frantic cries startle me. Ruby, you're having a bad dream. You're okay. You're safe. Where's Stella? She asks, gulping air. Before I can answer, she says, Never mind. I remember now. Oh, go back to sleep, Ruby. You've had a hard day. I can't go back to sleep. I'm afraid I'll have the same dream. There was a sharp stick and it hurt. I look at Bob and he looks back at me. Oh, Mac. She puts her trunk through the bars. Do you think Mac is mad because I hurt him today? I consider lying, but gorillas are terrible liars. Well, probably, I say. He ran away after that, Ruby says. Bob gives a scornful laugh. Crawled away is more like it. We are quiet for a while. Branches claw at the roof and a light rain drums. One of the parrots murmurs something in her sleep. Ruby breaks the silence. Ivan, I smell something funny. He can't help it. He probably puff-roodled, Bob says. I believe she's referring to the finger paints Julia gave me, not a puff-roodle, I say to Bob. What are finger paints? Ruby asks. You make pictures with them. Could you make a picture for me? Maybe someday. I remember Julia's picture, the one that will be worth $1 million, and I hold it up to the class. Look, it's you. Julia made it. It's very hard to see. There's not much moonlight. Why do I have two trunks? I examine the picture. They're not trunks, they're feet. Why do I have 2 feet? It's called artistic license. Now go back to sleep, Bob says. Ruby sighs. Could you tell me another story? I don't think I can ever get back to sleep without a story. I told you all I remember, I say with a helpless shrug. Then tell me a new story. Make something up. I try to think, but my thoughts keep returning to Mac and that awful claw stick. Have you thought of anything yet? Ruby asks. I'm working on it, Ruby. Ivan, Ruby keeps going. Bob said you're going to save me. I'm working on that too. Ivan, Ruby says in a voice. I have another question. I can tell from the sound of her voice that this will be a question I really don't want to answer. Ruby taps her trunk against the rusty iron bars of her door. Do you think that I'll die in this domain someday like Aunt Stella? Once again I consider lying, but when I look at Ruby, the half-formed words die in my throat. Not if I can help it, I say instead, because I promised Stella. I feel something tighten in my chest, something dark and hot. And it's not a domain, I add. I pause, and then I actually say it. It's a cage. I look at the ring layered with fresh sawdust. I look at the skylight, at the half-hidden moon. I just thought of a story, I say. Is it a made-up story or a true one? Ruby asks. True, I hope. Ruby leans against the bars. Her eyes hold the pale moon in them, the way a still pond holds stars. Here I go. Once upon a time there was a baby elephant. She was smart and brave, and she needed to go to a place called a zoo. What's a zoo? Ruby asks. A zoo, Ruby, is a place where humans make amends. A good zoo is a place where humans care for animals and keep them safe. Did the baby elephant get to the zoo? Ruby asks. I don't answer right away. Well, I think so. Well, how does a baby elephant get there? Ruby asks. Well, maybe she had a friend who made a promise. It takes a long time, but finally Ruby returns to sleep. Ivan, what you said about the zoo? How on earth are you going to get Ruby to the zoo? Suddenly I feel as if I could sleep for 1,000 days. I really don't know how I'm going to do it. I know you, Ivan. You'll think of something. But what if I don't? I ask. But Bob's already snoring on my tummy. His little red feet dance and I know that he's running in his dreams. Bob and Ruby sleep on and I don't sleep because I think of the promise I made to Stella and the pictures I've made for Ruby, and I remember it all. We were clinging to our mother, my sister and I, when the humans killed her. They shot my daddy next. Then it was all over and it was just my sister and I. There's a cluttered, musty store near my cage. They sell an ashtray there and it looks awfully like a hand of a gorilla. Why would somebody want something like that? When morning comes and the parking lot glimmers with dew, I see the billboard on the highway. And there I am, the one and only Ivan, bathed in the pink light of dawn. But I look so angry with my furrowed brow and clenched fist. I look the way my daddy did the day the men came and he got really angry. I am, I suppose, a peaceful sort. Mostly I watch the world go by and think about sleeping and bananas and yogurt raisins. But inside me, hidden, there's another Ivan. I could hear a groan. Do you know, I am so strong that I could actually make a grown man very, very sad and sore. In the flicker of time it takes a snake's tongue to taste the air, I could actually hurt a human if I really wanted to. He is the Ivan on the billboard, the really scary, angry one. I'm not that Ivan. I stare at the one and only Ivan, at the faded picture of Stella, and I remember George and Mac on their ladders adding the picture of Ruby to bring new visitors to the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. Oops, trying to turn the page. I remember the story told, the one where the villagers came to her rescue. I hear Stella's kind, wise voice. Humans can surprise you sometimes. I look at my fingers coated in red paint, the colour of blood, and I know how to keep my promise. During the days, I wait. During the nights, I paint. I worry each time Mac takes Ruby into the ring. He carries the claw stick with him all the time now. He doesn't use it because he doesn't have to. Ruby isn't fighting back anymore. She does whatever Mac asks. I close my eyes and I dip my fingers into the paint. When I'm done with one piece of paper, I set it aside to dry. It's so small, just one sheet, and I'm going to need so many of them. I move on to the next and the next and the next. It's a giant puzzle, and I'm making the pieces one by one. By morning, my floor is covered with paintings. I hide the paintings under my pool of dirty water before Matt can see them. I don't want them to end up in the gift store selling for $20 a piece or $25 with a frame. These paintings are for Ruby, every one of them. Ivan, Ruby asks one morning when I'm trying to sleep, why are you always so sleepy during the day? I've been working on a project at night, I tell her. What's a project? Oh, Ruby, it's a thing. A painting. It's a painting for you, actually, I answer. Ruby looks quite pleased. Can I see it? No, Ruby, not yet. Ruby pokes with annoyance at her rope foot and she takes a breath. Ivan, do I have to do shows with Mac today? I'm afraid so. I'm sorry, Ruby. Ruby dips her trunk in the water bucket. That's okay. I already knew the answer. It's night again and everyone's asleep. I look at the picture I've just made. 1,000 of them. It's smudged and torn and a muddy blur. I place it beside the others lining my floor. The colours are all wrong. The shapes are off and it actually looks like nothing. It's not what I'm trying to create and it's not what it's meant to be. It's so frustrating because I had this wonderful idea in my head and it's just not happening. And I just don't know why. Across the parking lot, the billboard beckons, as it always does. Come to the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, mighty Silverback. If I could use human words to say what I need to say, this would all be so easy. Instead, I have my pots of paint and my ragged pages. I sigh. My fingertips glow just like jungle flowers. And I try again, because I have got to be a resilient person who never gives up. I watch Ruby plod around the ring in endless circles, going nowhere. More visitors have been coming, but not many. Max says Ruby's not picking up the slack after all. He says he's cutting back on our food and he says he's turning the heat off at night to save money. Ruby looks thinner to me and more wrinkled than Stella ever was. Do you think Ruby's eating enough? Bob asks. I don't know. I tell you one thing though, you're sure as heck painting enough. I'm sure as heck painting enough. The smell is not very good. And I actually found the yellow paint on my ear this morning. Bob isn't too happy about my night painting. He says it's not natural. Now while I work at my art, Bob sleeps on a knot tag. Who wants to sleep on a knot tag? He claims he prefers her because she doesn't snore. He says her belly doesn't rise and fall and make him sick. What is this plan of yours anyway? Bob asks. If you explain it to me, I could help out. He gnaws at his tail. Maybe I could come up with something that doesn't involve paint. I can't explain it, I tell him. It's an idea in my head, but I can't get it right. And anyway, I'm almost out of supplies. I should have known I wouldn't have enough. I kick at my tyre swing. It's spattered with drops of blue paint. And anyway, it's probably a stupid idea. I doubt that, Bob says. Smarry, yes. Stupid, never. So our Bob believes in our Ivan. And I believe in our Ivan too, because I think he's got a plan. I think he's got a plan to get our Ruby out of the mall and maybe to get our Ruby into a zoo where she's going to be well looked after. All right, my little people, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and I hope you sleep tight, all snuggled up, and I will see you all in the morning. Sleep tight.